All right, I think we are live now.
Good
Hang on.
morning, Gene. How are you?
Morning. It's morning. That's how I am. It's been, yesterday was a long day.
Why was yesterday so long for you, Gene?
I was on freaking live stream forever. It certainly felt like it anyway. Um, I think I did like a 5.5 hour live stream, and then there was something else. And then I was like just watching stuff that was related to it. So got nothing else done all day.
I got a lot done yesterday.
Well,
Uh,
good.
yeah, gonna
Anything
get a lot
fun?
more done today before I head off to S4. So
That's
I'll
right. You're
be
gonna be
I'll be
gone
at
for a
S4.
while.
Well, this is just a cybersecurity conference in Miami. So if anyone's
Oh,
gonna
that's
be over
okay.
out at S4 and wants to hit me up, let me know.
What's that stand for? That's for.
Jesus Christ, I don't remember. It's been a long time.
Oh, okay.
It's been around a long time.
Security something probably is my guess.
Yeah, yeah.
They're all security something.
Mainly focuses on ICS cybersecurity. So, gee, wonder why I'd be going to that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Got
the
it.
balloon, all anyone can talk about is the balloon.
Uh, yeah. Unless they're talking about like drama on YouTube, but yes, yes.
You're the drama one on YouTube
I know.
follower,
I know. I know.
not me.
That's
Uh,
true. You don't give a shit about drama.
yeah, it's funny though. Trudeau even shot one down. It's like they
You're
found a
kidding.
little bit
Trudeau
of a
shot one down.
spine.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah,
I bet you they had to launch one just to make him look good for shooting one down.
yeah. Yeah, so he didn't look like too much of a cuck. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Um. Yeah, so let me drop a message to No Agenda Social, see if we get some more folks coming in through there or from there
All right.
for the live recording. You talk a little bit. What else is going on?
Uh, I'm liking the live recording. I'm liking the interaction from the chat and all that. That's a good thing. Uh, the balloon stuff really is interesting to me because the first one we let go all the way across the country before we shoot it down.
Mm,
Then we shoot something down in Alaska, and then
mm-hmm.
Canada shoots something down when it's kind of over the middle of one of their provinces. Now, granted, the northern section of said province not exactly not exactly inhabited, so how big of a
There's
deal is
polar
that?
bears and shit up there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wacky, although it sounded like the two that I heard about anyway that the US shut down were nowhere near the same size as the one that made its way across the entire country.
Oh, the one in Alaska, you mean?
The one that went all the way through the U.S. was
Right.
like the size of a bus, and the ones we
Yeah.
shut down, the size of cars.
Yeah. The one that we let go all the way across was definitely a large implement. And here's the thing: is it a spy balloon, as the media is reporting, or is it just a weather balloon?
Right. And
I
is
don't
there really
know.
a difference?
Well, or have we actually looked at it and you know, determined what it was doing?
Mm-hmm.
They say it has Western-made parts on it. Well, that tends to lead
Yeah.
towards more of a university experiment to me than uh, China's spy apparatchik. But I could be wrong.
Well, they say they traced the path back to China.
Oh, China admitted that it was
Yeah.
theirs,
Yeah. Yeah.
so there's no question there.
Mm-hmm.
It's what was this for is the only question.
Hmm.
And by
Yeah.
the way, we should have better audio today. I'm back on the Mo2 and the
You are. You
RE320.
sound
So,
very good.
yeah. And I did figure out what was going on with the backup rig. There was a
Mm.
firmware update,
Oh.
and moving from computer to computer, the settings do not follow the mic. I would
Ah.
think the mic would keep the settings, but no, you have to set them up differently on each computer. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll have that solved for, the end of the month when we're probably going to need to play fast and loose with schedules and
Yeah.
yeah.
Modified things as needed.
Yep.
Yeah. Although, I mean, you're probably going to be available in the middle of the night, so that should work out fine.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Now, could you tell me about all your trips way too far ahead of time, so I can't keep straight where you're at? I thought you were going to be traveling last week. Turned out it wasn't last week, but this week you're traveling, but it's not
Yep.
all the way to Europe. This week it's like Miami.
Yep. This
So
week is Miami.
is it the whole week though? You're going to be in Miami?
Yeah, I fly out Monday, fly back Friday.
Damn, that's a long conference.
Well, and it's Miami, so
Yeah, because actually, this like a week from now, I'm going to be up in Fort Worth.
cool.
So we're gonna have to figure out timing.
Fort Worthless.
Fort Worth. Fort Worth. Yeah,
Fort Worthless. Yeah.
it's haven't been up there in a few years. I've been to Dallas most recently, but I didn't stop off at Fort Worth. So
Yeah, I lived in DFW, the mid cities, for a while, and it's a place. It's not it's not my
place.
cup of tea, but some people like it.
Yeah, yeah. It's I don't know. It seems like it's a little greener than Dallas. A little more hilly. Although Texas hills are not what anybody else would call hills. It's kind of
Well, I mean, Fort Worth is the gateway to the West. It's the beginning of the hill country and all that.
mm-hmm.
So, and Fort Worth downtown, is really kind of neat. Versus Dallas downtown is pretty, any urban downtown, Dallas
Yeah.
is
Dallas
kind of like it.
downtown Dallas is just square buildings mostly.
Yep. I used to work in Energy Plaza
Mm.
back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing that surprised me was how early downtown Dallas shuts down. Like,
Yes.
by 10 p.m., there's very few things open. By 11 p.m., there's like 5 bars. That's it. Everything
Well,
else closed.
Everybody commutes into downtown Dallas,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, nobody lives there. Well, although
very
there's some more
few people.
condos now, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've got some mid-rises that have been built
Yeah.
up recently, but the majority of people are commuting in and out.
Mhm.
Versus, New York or anywhere like that.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah,
Houston, though, has more people living like actually in Houston urban center than Dallas.
somebody said Hill Country is pretty nice.
Hill country is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Hill country's gorgeous.
It's yeah. But it's kind of like not next to anything. So
That's part of the reason why it's awesome.
yeah, no, I know. It's always been a tug of war with me, like between being far enough away to be undisturbed and being close enough that I can drive to a nice restaurant or a bar. And consequently, I've tended to jump back and forth every time I move. I'm either right next to downtown or way the fuck away. Or right next to, or where when I was living in Minnesota, I grew up in the burbs, and then as soon as I moved out, I was in Minneapolis proper, and then lived there for a few years, and then from there I moved to further away burbs than where I grew up, and then after I got married, I moved even further, so I was literally like an hour's drive from Minneapolis, and
So
then.
Snuggles McJr. lives 45 minutes outside of Houston. I'm interested as to where because I'm pretty close to that myself. So
Oh yeah, you kind of are, aren't you?
yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, 45 minutes outside of Houston is actually inside Houston. I mean,
Exactly.
45 minutes from downtown Houston is definitely still Houston.
Oh, Houston's huge. And that's
Yeah.
what a lot of people don't understand is when you look at the metroplexes of Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston, the footprint that you're talking about is just so massive. Oh, he's in Baytown. Cool. I grew up on the Gulf Coast, man. I grew up in Crystal Beach.
Yeah, you were one of them kids walking around in coveralls, barefoot on the beach, picking up crawdads.
Yep.
That's my image anyway.
Well,
What
anyway.
I'm assuming it's in your head. Uh-huh.
Yeah. What can I say? My dad was a shrimper, so I grew up on the Gulf Coast until I didn't, and then I was in North Central Idaho. So yeah.
So do you know anything more about these balloons, or just the same stuff that's on?
No, that's the thing is everybody
media.
keeps ramping up the rhetoric on the balloons, the balloons.
And you just think
when
they're just runaway balloons.
Regardless of what they are, we don't have any hard facts. So we're sitting here pontificating. People are talking about the threat from China. They're talking about everything, from, they spied on nuke sites and did this, that, and the other. Maybe, I mean, show me some data. And if we think that they were, why the hell did we wait till it went all the way across the continental U.S. and was out to sea in the Atlantic to shoot it down? And
Yeah, well, that's probably
the
what
Biden
China told us
administration,
to do.
well, the Biden administration is, oh, well, we wanted to make sure it was safe and not, not going to cause any damage to,
Yeah.
civilian infrastructure. Well, don't shoot it with a missile. Shoot it with a single 50 cal round and let it slowly go down.
Right, right. And that's the thing is it's even a deflated balloon, it's still basically a parachute.
Right. It's going to slow.
gonna
It's going
create a
to
lot of
arrest the
friction
fall
in the
to
air.
some extent.
Yeah.
Yes. And not only that, there is lots of rural area
And
that
really,
it went
why didn't
over.
they just catch the damn thing? If we can
Eh,
catch rockets coming down, which
well, they're
Rocket
under
Lab
our
is doing
control.
with
but
helicopters, why the hell can't we catch a balloon?
I don't know, man. Why
Huh?
didn't we shoot it down when it was over uninhabited swaths of the United States?
I mean, you shoot it
Flyover
with a
country is
heart-
called flyover country for a
Yeah,
reason.
you shoot it with a harpoon, and the backside of the harpoon has a big old parachute on it. It doesn't matter where it lands; it'll land nice and gentle.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we weren't interested in stopping it from doing
Yeah.
what it was doing. So
I think the more interesting videos I've seen is videos that look like, now I'm not saying they are, but they look like hypersonic missiles flying in urban areas.
I haven't seen any of this.
Yeah, there's one that was of a airport with a airplane taking off, so it looked like it was shot from the ATC tower. And in the background, there's like a little smudge. And then when you slow down the video, you can see something that is the shape of a missile.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has no tail and no visible wings, so it didn't look like a fighter jet. But it was moving at like a third, no, it's less than that, probably a tenth of the width of the frame per every frame of the video. So at really fucking fast speeds. And it was flying behind the airport. If I saw something like that, I would definitely categorize it as a missile, and a pretty damn fast one. It was similar to the video that I saw in the probably about a year ago in the first few days of Ukraine when they launched several hypersonic missiles.
Did you see the video of?
Of course, all videos are fake these days.
Did you see the video of the boat suicide drone in Odessa that the Russians supposedly used to take out a bridge?
I saw people talking about it.
Yeah.
I did not see the video of the explosion. Did you?
I did, and
What did it look like?
it sure, a boat went up to the bridge and blew up, but
Oh.
people are making a big deal about this being a suicide drone and
Mm-hmm.
yada yada yada. Okay, I the so what is what bugs me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why does this seemingly matter to people
Yeah.
when we have very little information? I guess.
Yeah. Well, or conversely, it's like it doesn't really matter. I mean, people are still on YouTube anyway. People are still talking about drama. So, I don't know,
Okay,
man.
Gene, what's the drama?
Well, you know the drama. It's the whole Eliza Blue thing.
Is that really still going on?
Yeah. Well, yesterday was a big day because my co-host on this channel, Fango, was named in the article with all kinds of accusations of being the mastermind behind taking down Eliza Blue. And so there was...
Go to Fango.
I know, right? And there's a lot of very interesting conversation happening as a result of that. He was on a bunch of different shows. We had, in fact, what's her name? The conservative black commentator chick. What is her name?
Candace Owens.
Yeah, Candace Owens actually called out this channel, this YouTube channel.
Holy shit! Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What'd she
Because-
have to say?
Pretty cool, right? You're on that channel that Candace Owens
Yeah.
just called out yesterday.
Great.
Hmm.
Anyway, what did Candace have to say?
Well, she did a whole thing on Eliza Blue, and she thanked a number of YouTube channels that she said, she used as reference material that did a lot of the work. Um, and she did a pretty scathing uh, video about the whole situation, which I think virtually everybody has. I have yet to see anybody really do a video defending her. Tim Pool eventually, after pissing off a large percentage of his audience and having a lot of people quit, including me, like I stopped paying him money.
Really?
Yeah, I'm no
Wow.
longer a Tim
Gene's
Pool supporter.
boycotting Tim Pool.
14 months, dude. I was paying him for 14 months, and the guy gets me to do this by the way that he's acting. So anyway, so finally he relented, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, I get it. You guys are telling me I'm missing something," and it was a little half-hearted, but eventually he came around and started calling her a grifter as well. So,
Well, okay.
yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. But that's what a lot of the, I guess, reason that I'm kind of tired today is because yesterday was a very intense
So
day.
the Eliza Blue thing, y'all
Mm-hmm.
very much feel that she's exaggerating and taking advantage of the whole
She was a
trafficking thing.
hooker. She was a hooker who's trying to place herself in the proper light of being.
See, and this is why I don't hire hookers. I mean, you look at her and
I know.
you think she's a hooker? Really?
Right.
Come on, you
And
can
she
do better
thinks
than
she's
that.
an expensive. Well, I mean, she may have been expensive hooker. I don't know. Not my type for sure. You know that. So yeah, the whole situation is basically somebody that managed to get. It started off as just like, hey, why is she lying? But it quickly turned into where the main point is: how the hell does she have the power to get people banned off Twitter?
Mm-hmm.
And then how does she? And like that was bad enough, but then she started getting literally hundreds of videos taken down on YouTube. And I was
And
like, who
where
the
does
hell
this
gave her this
power
level of
come?
power, right?
And where does
What
it
does
come from, Gene?
Who is she
Since y'all done the
blackmailing?
investigation.
I know, right? And that's the thing. And then the Timcast writer dude, Shane, I
Shane
can't remember
Coughlin.
his Cashman.
Coughlin.
He's wrote this like 3-part story, totally exonerating her, where he believes everything she's saying, and yet nobody else seems to. And then he wrote a hit piece on Defango, which a number of YouTube lawyers are saying, yeah, I think you might have a case here. This is defamation. Yeah. And then quickly, I guess he called Defango finally yesterday. They talked, and he promised to put out another article and change a lot of the story. So it's like I have nothing to do with any of this stuff, but it's kind of been like ground zero for the whole Eliza Blue thing. So I've been a fly on the wall very close. And there's Defango right there. Morning.
I actually just wanted to drop a little information
Mm-hmm.
since you guys were talking about this. I just got off, or I just finished talking with Cassandra from Tim Pool,
Timcast. Mm-hmm.
and Shane and the other editor are pushing back, saying that no, Defango ran that company. He was the guy that started it.
See?
Blah blah blah
There
blah
you go.
blah. So he's basically saying he doesn't want to pull the article, but
Mhm.
The main editor Cassandra of the website says nope, this thing's getting pulled completely, and
Mhm.
we're going to be putting basically an editor's note on it, and it's
Mhm.
not coming back, and he's not going to be allowed to write anything else because she knows about all of this stuff. She's actually involved with the same exact company. She knows that I'm the one that actually like released all this documentation about Shadowbox in the first place. And yes, the other editor and Mr. Shane just simply don't want to believe that. They're just like, no, he started it. It was his company, even
Mhm.
though I've put out documentation showing that the company was originally called Troll Link, started in 2016, and I don't exist on any paperwork for it. And the only stuff that I have is literally the materials they sent me that they wanted me to eventually put a website up together for. But I didn't do that. I instead just released all the information to the public and exposed this horrendous troll company that they wanted to, put forward. So like that's the big update for today.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2 articles are going to stay up, but this last one is not coming back, and there's not going to be anything else on it.
Yeah, Shane killed his career completely, 100%.
Yes.
Yep.
Now, why do you think he's killed his career?
Because he's broken every rule of a journalist. He is writing fan fiction. That's the best way to describe it.
Okay, and I mean there are lots of M5M journalists that do that on a repeated and regular basis.
Well, there are, but I mean, he's not going to work for the New York Times. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, well, he was never going to do that anyway.
Well, he had ambitions of doing that.
Oh, I'm sure he did, but people can be delusional all they want.
He's not a very good writer. If you read the articles, they're just not written very well. They're written very much in the style of fan fiction. That's about the level of his writing skills. And okay,
I mean, I've read some pretty good fan fiction.
This is not me. This is, but you read a lot more than I do. This is what he basically did: is he came in as a journalist and then simply stayed with the person who's at the center of the controversy at her house or her parents' house. Spent several days there. Asked her super softball questions.
I wonder what was going on.
And took her, he's married, but who knows? That doesn't mean anything. Took her answers as gospel.
I mean, if she's alleged to have been
didn't bother interviewing any of the 20 plus people that are involved in this from the pushing back side and saying she's a fraud. Not a single interview with anybody until yesterday. And then wrote in his article that he fully believes her and has no reason to talk to anybody else. Super journalist that he is. And then wrote this hit piece, this like several page article that had nothing to do with her, but had to do with him like ferreting out this evil troll company that is DeFango is supposedly running, that set her up to take down Elon Musk, basically. I mean, it is a convoluted fantasy that he built. So, I think his career is non-existent at this point. I could not imagine anybody hiring him, and if they do, I don't think they're going to keep him very long, because I suspect there's a few folks here with long memories that are going to make sure that anywhere he pops up in the future after Timcast has a very quick reminder through their comments on articles, on videos, and everything else at exactly who Cashman is. He has killed his career.
We'll see.
And that's not a threat. That's a prediction.
Do you think Tim's going to get rid of him?
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Tim doesn't like drama. I believe Tim doesn't like drama. This dragged him into drama more than anything.
Tim doesn't like drama about his company.
Exactly. And that's what the drama is about. And it's going to stay with him for as long as
other
Cashman
people's
is there.
company, sure.
Of course. But I think Tim's going to get rid of him because he doesn't want the drama.
So what's y'all's take on Project Veritas and James O'Keefe?
I know we really haven't talked much about it, Fango and I, simply because we were focused on the other thing. But
there's not a lot of information other than the one side of it. No one's heard anything from James.
And I don't think that O'Keefe can talk because of his contract.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely keeping quiet, but some of what Tim and others have released on, the letter that the employees sent, they all need to be fired.
They do need to be fired. That's exactly right. So there's two issues here, two lessons, and unfortunately, these are not lessons that younger folks seem to really follow. Tim's going to have the exact same issue. And I've predicted this before, and I'll just repeat it again. I think that Tim is at some point going to have a employee uprising that is going to try and kick him off of there.
Yeah, but I don't think Tim has a board.
He will.
So
he doesn't right now. It's not going to happen right now. He's not big enough, but he will. But this is so the 2 points I would say I would bring up in that is the danger of not being the person that actually interviews and hires people and leaves that to others. And secondly is the danger of getting a board of directors that you're not in control of. This happened at Apple. It's a very similar scenario where they kicked out Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
It is understandable why a nonprofit has a board of directors. However, you need to make sure that board of directors has no teeth whatsoever. Set yours up kind of like the Clinton Foundation, where everybody on the board has the last name Clinton.
Yeah. Well, my last company, the CEO did a very good job of making sure the board was under his complete control, even though he didn't have 51% equity still in the company. I mean, he just has enough power and gravitas in the company and in the industry for that matter to be able to just say, yeah, no, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Which you would think James O'Keefe would have as well, by the way.
I don't think O'Keefe is a particularly good businessman. And I don't mean he's a bad one, but I've never seen anything that kind of popped out as like, oh, that was a good idea. That was smart. I think he is like if he could do anything, I think he'd want to do stand-up comedy. Like that's his real passion in life.
Yeah, well, I mean, him playing the role of the pimp all those years ago was certainly hilarious. So.
So I think he is. I think he believes in what he's doing, certainly here, but he's not a strategist. He is a good old-fashioned journalist. He's a guy that wants to just kind of dig in there and get the story in, even if nobody else can. Like that is going to be a something that motivates his ego, makes him go out and do stuff. And I'm not sure why they've got as many people as they do, and why they've got this board of directors, which is made out of people that don't like him. But I mean, the simple answer there, if you got a bunch of people complaining about you, you have to look back at why haven't you let them go earlier?
Yeah, well,
I'm very much like
Veritas has to go through some employees because you can't keep using the same people for undercover work, obviously, right? So, like James could never go undercover.
Somebody just did a donation. Quick question, guys: did Tim Pool pay Cashman to do the piece? Cashman is an employee of Tim Pool, so the lawsuit would be against Tim Pool, the company, or Timcast, I guess, Timcast Inc., whatever they're called.
So I think the whole point on that question is, did he specifically pay for that article? And
doesn't matter.
I guess he's an on-staff reporter. So I don't think he handed him, here's $100, go write this article.
Exactly. He's not at least to my understanding, the way that Tim's talked about him is he is an actual employee, not a freelancer who's getting paid to write stories.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the things that Tim has said multiple times, that everybody who works for Timcast is an employee, right?
I don't know. I mean, we certainly found out that Luke never got paid anything.
Which
Luke
is just shocking to me.
A guest on like 80% of his episodes for free. But I guess maybe the deal they did is that, nobody else can advertise their own products except for Luke, who can advertise his own shirts. And then maybe that was the trade-off. It's like, I'm going to give the platform for you with all these millions of people watching to advertise your shirts, but I'm
certainly
not going to
good advertisement for him.
It is a good advertisement, and his shirts, like he literally has a new shirt every single day. And I'm pretty sure it's not Luke that's making the shirts. It's he's probably got some artists he's working with. But in either case, if I was Luke, I would probably try and negotiate a deal that did that plus money, because he is by far the biggest attraction on Tim Pool. And honestly, I don't know if I would have canceled if Luke was still on there, because Tim was acting like a total dick, but I still enjoyed watching Luke. And now that Luke's gone, that's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to cancel.
You know, what's funny though, is Like I like Luke. I like Luke a lot. His
Mhm.
own show though, I can't watch. I can't
No,
even
he
listen to.
sucks at it. Totally. I agree.
He tries to script stuff too much.
And he uses the word of course way too frequently. I don't know if it's annoys you the way it annoys me, but he really needs to have somebody close to him tell him to
Mhm.
stop saying of course. It's kind of like some people say right all the time. Some people say, and like I clean up stuff from our podcast.
Uh-huh.
Um, Occasionally there'll be too little too much of the usage of something, and people kind of veer in and out of it. There might be a month where I say like too many times, but I'll sort of notice it myself, and I'll avoid consciously saying like after a whole bunch of words. Uh, but maybe that'll bring up some other word that I start repeating. And somebody close to Luke just needs to tell him to stop using, of course.
Yeah, and we all need those reminders from time to time because it is
Totally.
easy. I mean, we've seen it over the years with No Agenda, where
Oh yeah, they make
a
fun of
set of
themselves.
words will, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think that is probably no. Luke did not get canceled from Timcast. Luke moved to Florida. Timcast
Yeah,
is in West Virginia, so Luke went home
he got
essentially.
tired of being in his van in the parking lot.
Yeah, because he was living in a motorhome basically at Timcast. Yeah, think
Mhm.
about that. The most popular guest on Timcast was living in a motorhome, not getting paid. What does that tell you about Tim?
Well, I mean,
Good businessman. No, I'm just kidding.
at least very shrewd. But Tim's talked about being poor in his past, and
Mm-hmm.
people. It's like the children of alcoholics.
Mm-hmm.
People who grew up poor do one of two things, right? They either don't drink at all, or they follow in the footsteps. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
I don't know.
so I guess what I mean by that is when someone who grew up poor gets money, they either spend it all or they're
Mm-hmm.
very tight with it.
Or hoard it all. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a very good point. I agree with that. I'm definitely more of the spend it all variety. 'Cause I grew up super poor.
No,
Yeah,
not you.
I know. I like to buy things
Me too,
sometimes.
but I also
I forgot to return
try
that
and keep
mic that
it.
I bought that I was testing for you too. So now I'm probably gonna have to do a giveaway for that thing.
Uh, I mean, you should still have some time. You got it on Amazon, right?
I did, but I think it was been exactly a month. I just
Huh.
totally spaced it out. I don't know. I'll check. If I can return it, I'll return it. But yeah, occasionally I'll just end up with stuff that's brand new and unused that I just didn't want because I forgot to return it.
Did you ever get the Mantis,
The Mantis.
the Mantis X, the little training device
Oh no, I
I
still
told
got
you
to buy
about?
that. Yeah, I gotta buy that. That's
Yeah,
true.
I've been using it pretty consistently, and
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, it's a fantastic little thing. Anyone who wants to look it
Mm-hmm.
up, it's the Mantis X Elite. It's a
Yeah, I'm
little
gonna
training device
pull
for
up
your.
the image of it for people as we're talking if they're on the live cast. By the way, guys, if you're listening
I have one
to
of
this
those.
as a podcast,
You do Defango?
Yes.
oh, you got a Mantis? Some bitch.
Like, or isn't that for one of the that's for like a laser training aid for
Yeah.
firearms, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, I
No,
have one
no.
of those.
This is just the accelerometer one.
Oh, you
Oh
don't have
no,
the
I
laser
have
one?
the one. I have the laser one with
The
multiple different sizes for different
it,
setups, like shotgun, M6,
yep, the
the
laser one's
rifle.
interesting too.
Oh, they're different. I thought it was the same device.
No, they're separate devices. So the one I have is the Mantis X, and it's what I use it a lot for instance, is draw training. So
Mm-hmm.
defeating the garment, pulling, aiming, fire, dry fire exercises. But it's also a
There's
shot
an
timer for live fire and so on.
X2, X3, and X10. Which one do you have?
I have the X10 Elite.
X10 Elite. Okay.
Middle.
Yeah. So $250. Yep.
Yep. Well, you can
And
find
it
it
does
cheaper
not
than
have
that
a
at gun
laser?
stores. No,
Okay.
but they have a laser training stuff like the thing I was talking about. That's also
Got it.
pretty cool. This is basically this is accelerometer based. It's to help promote good habits. So, for instance, if you're pushing into the gun or limp wristing it, or even trigger pull analysis, it's a very very sensitive accelerometer,
Mm.
and the analysis is fantastic.
Yeah, you were telling me about how it measures everything, like the amount of time to draw the gun from the holster, the amount of
Yep.
time to line it up before a shot, how fast you are with your shots, how many shots per second or minute or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it is the best shot timer with a whole bunch of
Oh,
other
holy cow!
analytics and
It says it
interest.
works for archery too. I definitely need to buy it.
Oh, dude, this thing is fantastic.
Yeah.
They have.
Now,
I don't
is
know
it cheaper
what
to buy it
your.
at a store or is it direct sale only?
Yeah, and if you can buy it at online, and then I think you can do it at the
Mhm.
store as well. I saw mine at I think it was Shields,
Okay.
and then I've been using mine on like a very cheap firearm, like a Taurus G3C, something
Mhm.
small, compact. So
Mhm.
like you can set it up on there, and since it's a striker fire pistol, you can include the laser training aid inside and basically, just consistently practice without having to cock
Mhm.
every single time. And I mean, it definitely helps out like learning and getting better accuracy. Like I spent a lot of time at the Reno Guns range. Like there's a
Mhm.
pretty nice indoor range that I go to. I saw one of those there and I immediately went and purchased one. And I mean, it's definitely improved my shot accuracy and just
Nice.
understanding what's happening.
Well, since you are in the podcast, I know I've interviewed you on my other podcast, but not everybody listens to that. So who the hell are you?
Oh, I'm Defango, the gang stalker.
You're just gonna leave it with that, okay? Gangstalker was the label that Tim Cast's journalist was defaming Defango with.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So of course he got gangstalker.net because you have to.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good.
And what do you do, Defango?
I make internet online content, and basically, apparently, I'm some kind of evil internet overlord. But for the most part, I do IT work and
Yeah,
drive around in my car a lot.
in your black SUV.
No, it's a black Prius,
Oh,
but
okay.
I mean, I wish I had a black SUV. Apparently, I have a whole fleet of them.
Yeah, apparently, according to the article, Defango has a fleet of black SUVs that he deploys to stalk people 24/7.
That's hilarious.
If you haven't read the article, that's part 3
yeah, I will
of
have to go
Shane's
read
article
this
for
article.
Timcast, and it like the first several
It's gone.
paragraphs are all about Defango.
It's
Well,
it's gone.
I'm sure-
Actually,
I'm sure
yeah, you
you've
can't
saved
read
a
it,
copy.
but we still have it. I've got
archive.org,
PDF
man.
copy. Yeah, it's got to be something available out there. Yeah, I didn't even think of making PDFs of those. Probably should have right from the get go. But yeah, it's not. Well, that's all right. I mean, that's good. We'll get copies one way or the other. So yeah, feel free to pop in and out. I know it's super early for you. It's actually super early for me at 10 a.m., but it's super early for you at 8 a.m. So
West Coast guy, huh?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nevada.
Yeah, well, you guys are doing the live interactive podcast. You guys are
Mhm.
literally creating podcasting 3.0.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
No,
So I just wanted to pop in and
Video.
say, hey, I see you guys are doing pretty great. You see how things
Mhm.
are popping off, and then the conversation was really nice. So I figured I'd pop in for a second. Didn't mean to interrupt though.
Yeah,
No,
worries,
man,
dude.
you're more than
No
welcome.
worries.
And for
So
those
we have
who are
90
just listening on
people
our RSS
listening.
feed, go ahead.
Yeah, we got 90 people on YouTube right now, listening live. So welcome. And then, guys, if you want to listen to the audio version, if you're not going to be around for the recording of the entire thing, make sure you go to justtogoodoldboys.com, all one word, and that will lead you straight to all the links for the podcast itself. And we should be on Apple and all the standard Google, all the platforms.
Until we get banned.
Until we get banned, which I've not actually ever been kicked off by Apple for any of the podcasts I've done. But I think I tend not to swear. I don't really, occasionally I'll swear, but not very often. So, I don't know.
Someone's asking what's with the beanie. He's bald. Very, very bald.
Yeah, I think, and Defango also wears a beanie and is also bald on here. So I think that's a common thing. A lot of people wear beanies. I don't honestly, I can't wear hats indoors. They make my head like sweat. I don't want a sweaty head from wearing a hat indoors. So I never wear hats indoors. I rarely wear hats outdoors, frankly.
Yeah, I wear hats when I'm too lazy to get up and comb my hair. So,
Really?
but that's because I'm not bald.
But isn't like an uncombed hair a hairstyle these days?
Not when you're a professional. No, I don't think so.
You wear a baseball
So,
hat when you're a professional at work? Really?
yeah, depending.
Kidding. I don't know about that. I would have a little chat with an employee that did that.
Yeah, well,
But I'm
I
old
also don't
school.
wear a
I'm
suit
back-
and tie anymore.
Well,
Hardly
that's
ever.
true. Fair enough. I wore a suit
I
and
mean,
tie.
says the guy in
for-
a tracksuit.
Hey, man, tracksuits are comfy. I wore a suit and tie for the first 20 years of my career. Every day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, luckily in IT, that's
Where do you
not
think
a
I was?
big thing. Well, and I mean, even
Back in the
current,
old days, you had to dress for the part.
right. Well, in the current company I'm working for, there's definitely a dress code. Like you don't go in the office wearing jeans.
Mm.
It's just a thing. But
Mhm.
do I not have any customer meetings today? Am I just internal? Yeah, I'll throw a baseball cap on.
Hmm.
So, yeah, and a lot of that really relaxed during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Lockdowns, no
I totally
haircuts.
could see
all-
that.
yeah.
Yeah, somebody said they bought their first tracksuit recently and they gave up. Nick says a Russian in a tracksuit, classic. That's just random. That's just doesn't
Yeah,
mean anything.
but it needs to be the white Adidas, man.
That was
You're
yesterday.
falling down. Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Right now he's wearing the red Adidas. He's wearing the special from that movie Constantine that the Mexican guy found the Spear of Destinies was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one he's got on today.
Well, I've got the red and white. I also have a red and black. I've got a lot of different color combos. And of course, it's an Adidas because, it's a tracksuit. Of course, it's an Adidas.
So, Gene.
Yeah.
What's going on with Ukraine and them wrapping this up?
Yeah, well, they seem to be they meaning Russia seem to be progressing a little faster. I think Ukraine is losing a lot of support, is what it seems like. It's becoming more and more difficult to maintain the lie that Ukraine is winning.
We've got protests in Germany.
We do have, but then we had protests like 3 months ago too, and that wasn't having a whole lot of impact. I don't think European governments really give a shit about their citizens right now. Major protests in France, more relating to energy than participation in Ukraine, but nonetheless destabilizing the governments. The I don't know if it's the president, but it's the head of Moldova resigned. So that is interesting. I'm not quite sure whether that was a U.S. decision to replace that person in Moldova or whether it was a organic thing. It's hard to say.
Uh-huh.
But there is definitely an anticipation that Moldova will end up being the second front.
Now, there are a few interesting things about that potentially.
Mm-hmm.
But so why do you feel like it was a U.S. move to remove the head of state of Moldova?
I think they want to put somebody that's more of a hawk in there.
Okay. So I was talking about the Germans and the German protests specifically because of how it relates to their constitution, them sending, we've talked about in the past about the optics, especially from a Russian perspective, of the Germans sending arms and what that looks like to the Russians. And I think from what I've been seeing of the German protests, there is a pretty substantial portion of the population that's cognizant of that and is very worried about what that will mean.
So Defengo mentioned that there's a report from the UK's Ministry of Defense saying that Russians are dying like crazy. Yeah, UK is about the only country that's still kind of clinging on to the lie right now. The actual numbers are about 10-1. So there's about 10 Ukrainians. That's actually not true. There's about 6 Ukrainians and 4 NATO people that are killed for every single Russian that's killed. And those numbers came from Israel, who has been looking at this situation independently, and the data was leaked recently. The Russians have been saying for a long time that it's about 8-1. Israel is actually saying it's about 10-1 right now. So realistically, I posted it. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I posted a link to No Agenda Social, which is a FETI thing that had a breakdown of all the different casualties, damage, equipment, everything else on both sides. And it is it is shocking as to exactly what the losses have been from Ukraine at this point.
I don't think we can trust any of the numbers that are coming out of Ukraine. We won't know. I mean, it's like World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what the truth about World War II is. I just know that I don't know it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Because there's so much propaganda on all sides.
There is a lot of propaganda for sure. But in either situation, even if you take the worst case scenario, which the UK started clinging on to, a lot of other Western countries are sort of giving up now. It sort of doesn't matter because Russia can afford to lose more people and still win the war.
To an extent, but Russia's also got a collapsing demographic. So that's
not an issue. I mean, everybody keeps harping on this. That's not nearly as much of an issue in a command economy.
Well, we'll see. Now, so why do you think Moldova is going to be the next front? I mean, this is not a NATO country. It is a neutral country.
Yeah.
So
so's Ukraine.
Well, Ukraine has never really been neutral, though.
Uh-huh. Well, Moldova, because of Transnistria. Transnistria is between Moldova and Ukraine. And Transnistria has, I guess, the one thing it's famous for, maybe, is that it still has 80 different Russian troops, not 80 people, but 80 divisions, I don't know, 80 whatevers, of some measurement of Russian troops there. It always has. Transnistria effectively did the same thing as Eastern Ukraine, except they did it right away after the collapse of the Soviet Union and said, nope, we're not part of Moldova. We were part of the Soviet Union, the country, and we are not going to be part of Moldova. And so this was this sort of a weird, not really part of Russia, but effectively part of Russia. It was a exclave. And so they never changed anything. They are the most Soviet-looking country. I don't think they're recognized by a lot of countries as a country. They're just perceived as a territory. But that is essentially the south, I guess it'd be the southwest border of Ukraine.
So you think Russia is going to try and get a land bridge to there?
Oh, absolutely. That's been the plan from day one. Is you get a land bridge, you get Odessa. Odessa has always been a Russian city, and you get a land bridge all the way through Transnistria. You effectively have Russia bordering, if there's anything left of Ukraine, and that's debatable at this point whether there would be or not. But if there is, Russia's going to border from the east, from the south, and from the west. And then from the north, you'll have Belarus, and then from the very west, you're going to have Poland. And the U.S. doesn't want that, obviously. So that I think this is where the second front, they're trying to open up a second front through Moldova. I don't think the Moldovan citizens, whatever you want to call them, I don't think that they're going to be happy about that.
I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's interesting to me is you have people saying that Russia needs to, for, having defensible borders, has to push way further out than what we're even talking about right now. Right? Now, how true is that? I don't know. If you go with what Zion says, whatever, you're really looking at Russia pushing into NATO territory. And if that is the case, what will the NATO response be? Is the U.S. going to basically say, okay, no, we are withdrawing, like some people think that we will, or do you think we'll double down?
Yeah. Well, you know my position on this. I think it's inevitable that we're going to have nuclear weapons used within a year.
Mm.
I don't think there's any way around it. The people that want war
Now,
are
a strategic or tactical?
oh, it
right?
always starts off with tactical, but it always escalates. It's the thing is, the last time the U.S. used nukes, there could not be a retaliation from Japan.
Correct.
Uh,
Well, there could have been a conventional retaliation. But yeah.
at that point in the war, it would have been. I mean, I guess there could have, but it wouldn't. It wasn't a serious retaliation. I think that because as you well, and I know, Japan would have signed a declaration of peace even without the nukes. That was not a necessary step. It was an accelerator.
Well, it was to be able to. Japan was at that point. Japan. Yes, they probably would have signed a declaration of peace. They probably would have gone through that, but they would have wanted to hold on to much more territory than they ultimately ended up holding on to.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the people in the comments here said, if Russia joined with Mexico and told us they were taking Texas, what do you think we'd do? Yeah, exactly. And incidentally, there will be Russian support for Mexico. And I've said this for about a year now. When the opportunity is right, tit for tat is going to happen. And when a non-U.S. friendly government is elected in Mexico, both China and Russia are going to be in there heavily. And so we will see what happens.
Yeah, well, with NAFTA too, I don't know that happens.
What we're going to do? Overthrow the governor of Mexico if they elect somebody who's more socialist?
I don't think that's going to happen because we are so integrated as far as their major trading partner.
Which part isn't going to happen? The people of Mexico aren't going to elect somebody who's not pro-U.S.?
Correct. I think they're going to. I think they're going to hold a very tight relationship with the U.S. for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
The Mexican people's economic needs lie with trading with North America.
And you still believe that people vote rationally?
I think people vote with their wallets largely.
Mm-hmm. That's why we have Biden, I guess.
Yeah. Had COVID and the recession there from the lockdowns and everything else had not happened, absolutely this would be Trump's second term. There would be no doubt about that.
Really? So you think that COVID lost for Trump?
I think that was a huge portion of it, yes.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have the economy behind him the way he did for the first couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my God, we saw here in Texas, we saw under $2 a gallon gas.
Yeah.
It's been since I was a kid since the last time I saw that.
$2 gas?
Under $2 gas, yeah.
No, it's been under $2 for most of my life. It's been way over under $2 for most of my life. What are you talking about?
For most of your life. I'm younger than you, though.
I know, but
I mean,
it
the
hasn't
mid
been that
2000s
expensive.
on, it's been over $2 a gallon.
Okay. I have to look it up while we're doing the podcast here because I just don't remember that it's been much over $2 ever, except for a few notable wars.
Okay. You look that up. Anyway,
Yeah.
the interesting thing that Biden is doing and what came out of the State of the Union, which I don't know if you watched or not, but it was man, that was a rough one to watch.
Yeah, in fact we watched it live on the stream.
Okay.
Commenting. And I had my finger on the boo button.
Man, they tore into him, didn't they? I've never seen a State of the Union where the president was heckled so much.
Yeah. It was reminding me of the English Parliament.
Yeah, to a large extent. Prime Minister question hour.
Uh-huh.
Now, here's the interesting thing, though. Biden is keeping up a lot of the Trump era foreign policy. Basically, he's doubled down on Trump's foreign policy in a lot of ways. which
Mhm.
I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. So I will give him some credit there. I think you're going to see a pretty big move away from China. I think this balloon stuff is all about demonizing China, you know. So I think that companies that haven't moved manufacturing away from China are
Mhm.
going to shortly. I think Apple is already making the moves to move away, which they have a huge supply chain problem there.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't think so, but yeah, it's. I think that there's a lot of things that are not done for rational reasons in governments around the world, not just here. And I think what we're gonna start seeing as the whole war situation starts to ramp up is we're gonna start seeing more decisions that are based around seemingly disconnected issues. Um, and we already seen this in Europe. I mean, Europe effectively sabotaged themselves to the point where it's going to take them 50 years to recover out of the industrial black hole that they've gotten themselves into. And Germany being the biggest component there, but other European countries as well. The willingness and support of U.S. policy with complete disregard of what's good for the actual country. And by the way, Mike, yes, the answer to your question was yes. The with
What
complete
was the
disregard,
question?
the question is Gene the devil's advocate.
Yeah,
I actually had business cards that said that. The
totally legitimate businessman.
well, those two. But no, I had business cards that says the Advocatus Diaboli. It's a position. It's actually a job title at the Vatican. But I think we're going to start seeing more of that, where the policy and decisions of more countries outside of Europe even are going to start to become more reflective of, God, I hate to use this word because it's not completely true, but it's going to be more virtue signaling. And not just virtue signaling for the U.S. side. We're going to start seeing more virtue signaling for the other side as well, for China, for Russia, for, countries that are not friendly with the U.S., let's put it that way. The unipolar world is done completely. I think the real question right now is: are we going to have a move towards a unipolar world where the U.S. is not the unipolar country, or are we going to have a more of a dichotomy there where we're going to go back to what we used to have during the Cold War, where there was somewhat of a balance between the East and the West? Or are we going to splinter further, and we're going to have an African faction, a Asian faction, a South American faction, and a North American faction, and Europe? I'm not even going to mention because they're basically fucked. So,
So so it depends on who you follow. There are
mhm,
multiple analysts and trains of thought. I think we
don't
do
believe any of them.
splinter.
That's the best way.
Not entirely,
Yeah.
not in a
Mm-hmm.
totality of what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you're, and this goes for any type of analysis,
Yeah.
people have their own biases that they end up putting in, right?
Yep.
So one of the things that inherently happens, and I've brought it up before. I was given a presentation right during the beginning of the Iraq War at a university event, and part of my presentation was headlines from Al Jazeera, CNN, and Fox News.
Yeah.
Fox News and CNN said war in Iraq. Al
Mm-hmm.
Jazeera said war on Iraq. One letter difference,
Mm-hmm.
total complete change in bias. And propaganda is a big thing. That one letter change in the sentence was a total shift in the thought process about the war, right? So that's something that has to be
Yeah.
considered. But I think we are going to break down. I think when you look at the militaries and the economies and the demographics of who
Mm-hmm.
can build alliances and basically go back to the period of, pre-World War One of empires,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have some predominant empires, and then you're going to have some secondary holdovers, and it's going to be real interesting to see what happens to international shipping if that goes that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there will definitely be more disruptions coming down the line.
Yeah. I think we can all agree that Bretton Woods is over.
Yeah.
Which it's astonishing to me that Bretton Woods is now being talked about openly and fully acknowledged, where in the past, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist if you think the Bretton Woods Agreement was anything other than exactly what it said it was.
Yeah. But I mean, to some extent, that's been over for a while, hasn't it?
No, the U.S. is still out there, trying to be the world's police in a large way.
Well, there was two components to Bretton Woods, though. One was the pegging to the U.S. dollar. The other one was the U.S. dollar being tied to gold.
Yes, and that portion has been obviously gone since Nixon. But this is how it's
the other
been
one
tied
going
to the
away was
petrodollar
inevitable.
now.
It's just amazing it lasted as long as it has.
Yeah,
I don't think that we would have had 44 signatories to Bretton Woods if it wasn't tied, if the U.S. dollar was not tied to gold.
Well, I tend to agree, but one of the things I would say is that, the U.S. had everybody over a barrel, right? It was the only economy to really survive World War II.
Yeah, for sure.
So we could have absolutely screwed everybody over if we wanted. We could have gone into empire at that point and kept up the old games, but we didn't. In fact, we sacrificed our economy largely to bribe everyone into joining NATO or being a affiliated or allied company to stand against the USSR.
Yeah.
And the Warsaw Pact.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think was the right move at the time.
Yeah, and now that this is obviously going to unwind 30 years after the USSR fell apart,
right,
we'll see how well we can unwind it without starting World War III.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's going to be damn near impossible. Because the alliances that exist in time of peace are theoretical alliances. It's really alliances that exist in time of war that matter.
Agreed. However, I don't think. I mean, Germany at this point has 100% committed itself to NATO, and other than
the Bundestag is overthrown and burned to the ground.
Okay. I think Germany. So goes Germany. So goes Europe, with the possible exception of the French.
Yeah, the French are going to be, protesting themselves. So that's always been the case.
Yeah,
and Italy may end up emerging as the winner in Europe.
How so?
Well, they're the only ones that have a conservative government that seems to be not following the U.S. lead on like a little puppy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I still don't know how they're going to come out as a winner. I don't see them as much of a player
Well,
at all.
they're further south for one. They have less winter to worry about. And they're an agrarian society, so they will be able to feed themselves. Germans will starve.
Yeah, and you can look at import maps of who imports food versus who exports food and so on. And there are very few countries that have the ability to maintain any semblance of modernity post-globalism. And that's going to be...
I understand the plan by the neocons was always to leverage Russia versus Europe in order to further build a wall between Europe and Russia, and then start taking over the sale of goods to Europe fully. It'll be U.S. grain, it'll be U.S. petroleum products, but all of those have a much higher cost than Russian grain and Russian petroleum products. So Europe is going to be, I mean, even if there isn't a nuclear war, which I suspect there will be, I definitely on that side of the I guess people predicting, but even if there isn't, I think Europe is going to be like I think I think when European governments decided to go all in with the sanctions and even double down on some of them to be harsher than U.S. sanctions, I think that they thought that literally a few months of those sanctions would end this conflict, and
Well,
things would go back
let's
to
be
normal.
honest. Had those sanctions been applied to Russia in 2008, it probably would have. But the sanctions
Yeah.
that were put on Russia going back to then,
Yeah,
basically sent a signal to Putin and the Russians that they better insulate their economy from globalism.
yeah, and he's
And
talked
they have
about
done that to a very large degree. Russia
He's-
is very much pulled back from the global economy.
Exactly, and he talked about that. Is that while the original sanctions imposed on Russia were unjustified and painful, the silver lining was it forced Russia to become a lot more self-sufficient.
Hmm.
And by doing that, a lot less able to be affected by future sanctions.
Yes,
And I think we've seen that.
I agree.
So-
Now, China is not that way.
No, China is a global economy country.
If you applied the sanctions that are applied to Russia to China,
Yeah.
China would be, they'd be in famine very quickly.
Yeah, but so would the U.S.
Why is that?
I know we have a disagreement on this point, but because I see just how many components of everything come from China.
Yeah, but we wouldn't
There's
be in
nothing made
famine.
in
We
the
can
US.
feed ourselves.
Oh yeah. No, we could feed ourselves, but would be living.
So you don't get a new iPhone.
And you don't have a power plant. Sure.
No, this is something we've disagreed on. A lot of control system technology is not manufactured in China.
Mhm.
It just isn't. It's manufactured in Mexico. It's manufactured in Europe. It's manufactured in the U.S. Maxim integrated. Right. We have a
And all the raw materials are made in Mexico for those parts made in Mexico, is what you're saying.
Okay, so if you get deep into supply chains, for instance, laser etching of the dyes. No, we currently do not have a source for neon outside of China or Russia, actually.
Yeah.
Now,
Or titanium.
if we start producing our own steel and go back to smelting, which we have a lot of idle smelters here in the US, then we can. But, right now our steel manufacturing is taking pig iron from other countries.
Mhm.
We don't generate our own pig iron, therefore we don't have air separation units to get the noble gases out of the air.
Mhm.
We could do it in different ways. We can build that infrastructure up here and in Mexico as a cheap trading partner.
Yeah, and that's the difference where I think we always end up when we have this conversation is you're talking about we could, and I'm saying we don't.
But I'm saying we are moving towards that. That's one of the things that I think Trump, as much as I want to do it all here in the U.S., we don't necessarily, we can't do it at a cost-effective rate all here in the U.S. So NAFTA too, and the renegotiations that happened there, I think were very largely pro-U.S. And I think you have a lot of manufacturing returning to North America, if not the U.S. You have a lot of baseline manufacturing going into Mexico. By all measures, the Mexicans are cheaper, more skilled labor than China.
Yeah, I've seen that on a number of different products. Yeah, I don't think it's true across the board, but I think that there is definitely a benefit to us to have more of our sort of manufacturing supply chain production happening as close but still outside of the U.S. as possible. So Mexico or Canada.
Yeah, Canada, from a labor standpoint, essentially competes with U.S. workers, but Canada has a lot of land and raw materials that can be
Mhm.
used.
Yeah. Um, but I don't know, man. I just if all ships from China stopped coming tomorrow,
It
I
would
don't think
destroy
there's a
China.
single sector in the United States that would be operational within 6 months.
Why is that?
We wouldn't have food. We wouldn't have supplies because everything depends on either raw or manufactured materials from China. And even about materials that aren't actually raw materials that aren't coming from China, they're still being purchased by China in Africa or Russia and then sold to the United States.
I mean, some of that is true. You have, chip manufacturing is a great example. You have most of the high-end chips, server class chips, everything else are pretty much all US based.
What does that mean?
Mid-level, I'm sorry,
What do you mean based?
produced in the US. For instance, Intel.
Um, right, but Intel doesn't produce the chips used for the majority of the connected internet products out there.
Oh, sure. I mean, China produces a lot of things that ended up in your Ring doorbell or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's not really doing work. Um, I think, Dell, HP servers will still be able to get those general laptops, computers, productivity-based things.
I think most,
Uh,
well, yeah, but I'm not sure that they solely produce chips in the U.S. Do they?
No, they don't solely, but a lot, and that's when we saw the supply chain crunch, and Defanga might be able to back me up on this. When we saw the supply chain crunch on servers, it wasn't processors, it wasn't RAM, it was essentially motherboard components where some of the lower end processors on a motherboard, like the North Bridge or
Mm-hmm.
South Bridge, you weren't able to get that. Now you have companies like Maxim Integrated, who's a big defense contractor that can stand up something like Bedrock Automation on its own and produce that solely in the U.S.,
The top
which was
five
a
chip
flop.
foundries are outside of the U.S.
I'm sorry?
The top 5 chip foundries are outside of the U.S.
By volume, yes.
Yeah.
But you got to look at what types of chips they produce.
Apple products, Qualcomm, Nvidia, AMD. What else here?
Foxconn.
These are the companies that they make chips for. So the top ones I'm seeing here are Taiwanese Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, Samsung, United Microelectronic Corporation, Global Foundries, and China Semiconductor Manufacturing International.
Yeah.
And by
So,
volume, these are the biggest 5 in the world.
yes, by volume.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to look at where they're utilized and so on. So I think you're much more pessimistic on the U.S. end. I think I'm much more
Oh,
optimistic.
absolutely. Yeah.
I think when we look at the naval power around the world,
Inconsequential. Navies don't matter at all right now.
they do when China, for instance, imports a ton of their food that China is absolutely dependent upon global infrastructure and trade, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that happens by ship, and the U.S. has the ability to deny it that.
They don't. The only thing that matters right now is missiles. Missiles take out ships. Ships take years to replace. A naval warfare will never happen. We're beyond that. That was 20th century. In the 20th century, you needed a strong navy because you could have a naval warfare situation. Today, you do not.
Okay. And if you launch an ICBM,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of payload,
Mm-hmm.
you have a long time for that to be targeted and taken down?
10 minutes from Russia to the U.S.
Okay, that's a long time for it to be targeted
A ship
and
isn't going to get
taken down.
targeted when it's sitting in the port in the U.S. But as soon as that ship is sitting off the coast of China, trying to prevent Chinese ships from leaving, it will get taken out in 2 minutes.
My point is, you
That's not
need
even
a
enough time to
ship to
prepare.
be able to move a missile closer to be able to fire it off, where
How many
missile
missiles
defense
close? China
systems
has
don't have time.
hypersonic missiles right now. There's nothing to move. You're talking about the U.S. trying to deny China trade. Well,
Which I think
they
can.
can't. No, they can't.
Well, we will definitely see how this plays out
And we
over the next
probably
few
will.
years.
It's very likely that we will see that playing out. But I think
I don't know how China's economic system survives the coming collapse. Like, China isn't going to be a manufacturing center for the rest of the world.
yeah,
That's
I
going
agree with
away.
that. Totally.
So how do they shift their economy, and what direction do they shift it to?
Yeah. Well, luckily their population is going to shrink, so the impact on them from the change in economy will be lessened.
I see it as the other
Well,
way.
It's all planned.
It very much feels like it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Globally, it feels very, very planned.
Yeah. And just to round out this topic, we can move on to other stuff. But I think, and again, we'll see if I'm right or wrong, but I think the two most important military weapon systems, or even beyond weapon system, but really the focus needs to be on submarines, missile submarines, and missiles. Because that combination can literally take out everything else, from people to ships to airplanes to you name it. Missiles, guided missiles, and submarines.
Okay.
So if I was playing the game Risk, that's what I'd be focusing on right now.
That's such a great game.
I haven't played it for decades, but I used to really enjoy it.
Risk, and then Axis and Allies, which is, the upgraded version of Risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was mostly... I gave up board games a long, long time ago. I was just exclusively computer games.
Well, that's a shame. That's what having kids is for. Keep you playing board games and doing fun things like that.
There's even Monopoly is on the computer now, like the official version.
Oh yeah, has been for a long, long time.
Yeah. But I remember that used to be a fun game to play back in the day, back in the analog days, kids. When we used to play board games, and it wasn't like retro; it was actually modern.
Oh Jesus, man!
Oh, the good old days. Back when gasoline was well under $1.
Yeah, people today we are so spoiled. Everybody has,
totally.
Everybody has hundreds of channels of TV. We've all got very fast internet, everything else. I remember going to my grandparents' farm, and one of the TVs was still black and white, and then and did not have a remote. The other one had a remote, but it was a clicker remote where it actually hit the thing, and it would produce the tone to change the channel or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
The original remote's why it's called a clicker.
I remember TVs without remotes.
Yeah. And
turn a dial.
Yeah, there was one channel that came in, because this is out in rural Texas. So when we were ever up there, we were all outside. We were playing board games if it was raining, that sort of thing. That's what me and my cousins did, because you didn't have any other options. Yeah. And exactly. I think that there's something to be said for prime deprivation.
I think it's very good. We have gotten ourselves into a situation which is really not good for our brains, which is that there is always available stimulus, no matter where you are or what you're doing. And humans didn't grow up with that over the history of us as a species. We grew up with long periods of downtime, followed by short bursts of high activity and stimulation. Like when a wolf pack attacks you, that's pretty stimulating. or when you're chasing a woolly mammoth and trying to kill it so you can have food. That's pretty stimulating. But for the most part, you're kind of, living in a cave picking berries. A lot less stressful, low activity, low stimulation. And I think a lot of people right now, whether they know it or not, are living lifestyles where the brain is stimulated for 18 hours. And then you wonder why people have to be medicated all the time because they can't sleep, they can't relax, they can't think straight, they're overly sensitive to everybody else. They can't deal with other people. They're constantly being triggered on things. I think if the best way to deal with all that stuff is the decompression out with no internet, out in nature for a while. That's the best reset you can do, and I recommend everybody do that for themselves.
Well,
before you get to the point where somebody else has to do it for you.
It's not just mental stimulation. We live in a time where abundance is the norm, not privation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you and I both, and I think from what I've seen of Defango, we all have a little extra on us that we could probably lose.
Yeah, some of us more than others.
Yeah. And part of that is, not just self-control and being able to diet and exercise and so on, but it's really, if you put one of the interesting studies that I've seen is if you put a rat where they're borderline starving, right? Mm-hmm. They're getting enough, but certainly not any in excess.
Mm-hmm.
It actually increases the life of the rat.
Yes.
It actually has a longer life. It is better. Our systems are, and it makes sense, especially if you follow through with any evolution theory or whether or not you think it was created or not. Our systems are, our optimum range is just above starving.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
That is very true. That's like I switched to a intermittent fasting diet about a year and a half ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, so probably like 6 days a week minimum, sometimes 7, but occasionally just 6. I will only eat once a day. And I found that allows me to be a lot more focused and able to work and think and write and do all the stuff that really puts a large demand on my brain. And before I started doing the intermittent fasting, I typically, like when I've written a few books. When I was writing books, I found the only time that I could really do it was between when I woke up and lunchtime. I could not write after lunch. I was like, my brain was a soft, fuzzy mess. I could have conversations with people. I could watch YouTube videos. I could do a lot of things. I could be working, not horribly productively, but I could be working. But that time before lunch seemed to be the most productive time. And when I started doing intermittent fasting, that time grew tremendously. And effectively, what I've been doing is I will typically do activities that require a lot of thinking, a lot of clarity of thought between getting up and about 3 p.m., 4 p.m. And then I'll have my one meal a day at between 4 and 6, maybe 3 and 6, at some point between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m., depending on if I'm hungry or not. And then I will do activities after 6 that require less focus and concentration. And I can still have, a lot of fun stuff I can do. It's just, I know I'm not going to be nearly as productive if I'm writing. I'm not going to be nearly as careful if I'm working on spreadsheets. It's just less of a, it's not the best time to be thinking. And
yeah,
I guess I could push that all the way out to where I would like eat at 9 p.m. and then maybe have the entirety of the day be very clear. but I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah, I kind of I do an intermittent, and naturally my normal eating schedule is basically I have lunch at around noon, and then I eat my last meal generally around 5. So, I have in intermittent fasting, a lot of people say have your quote unquote feeding window to under 6 hours, and mine pretty naturally is. But days like yesterday, where was doing some errands and everything else, and I had a coupon for our local Brazilian steakhouse.
Oh, yeah, I love those.
Yeah, so I didn't eat anything except what I ate.
Perfect. Yeah.
But I also, definitely pigged out there. So yeah,
Well, you have to because it's not cheap either. So you got to get your money's worth.
yeah.
Totally.
But, lots of delicious meat. So
Exactly. I got to do that too, dude. I've got a couple of gift certificates that are partly used that I need to consolidate, and so I could actually go eat for totally free. I just keep forgetting to do that.
Yeah, my meal was free, but I also indulged in some of the tasty beverages. So yeah. Yeah. They've got this one adult beverage that's a Brazilian rum drink, and it's essentially muddled lime and lime juice and a little bit of sugar, and it starts with a C. It's a different alcohol than rum, but it's essentially a type of rum that's just
drinking.
Fantastic. Huh?
I thought you quit drinking.
Said who?
I thought you did. Didn't you quit drinking?
No, Josh did.
Oh, Josh quit drinking. Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
Good.
Shit. Yeah, I was the one making fun of him, saying AA's for quitters.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm calling him a quitter.
Exactly.
I don't know, dude. I've certainly enjoyed drinking, but I will say that after all of last year, I didn't drink at all. I like the consistency of not drinking. I like not having to recover from drinking out. Not that I had hangovers, but just just a little more lethargic than normal, just a little more tired and less awake and stuff. I think all this stuff makes more impact as you get older. Like in my 20s, there was not a whole lot of difference that I noticed on whether I drank the night before or whether I didn't drink the night before. Like every day was a fresh beginning with nothing being carried over from the previous day. Right now, not so much. I definitely feel like if I drank the previous day, then the day after is going to be more noticeable. And again, not to the extent where I feel hungover or anything. I don't have a headache, but I just feel like I'm a little foggy, like I'm a little bit more hazy than I normally would be, like a day after drinking. So last year, I just decided I'm going to try going a whole year without drinking, and it was amazingly easy. And then after I finished off the year, technically I said, well, I guess I'll be drinking again this year. I guess I could, but I really haven't gotten around. I haven't had a single drink this year. So
yeah, well, I'm going to S4, like I said, and I'll be at the beer ISAC, and I can't not have a beer at that. I mean, I could, but it's just, I don't know, man. I'm not one of those people
if you enjoy it and you have no negative repercussions, by all means, there's no reason not to.
And that comes down to this is, if you have a problem with alcohol, and this, I have some friends that absolutely do, and you let it affect your life, then you probably shouldn't drink.
Yeah.
If you are kind of like where you can just take it or leave it, then it probably doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, and again, it's not like I was alcoholic or anything. I've never been addicted to alcohol, and I've never been the opposite. I've never disliked alcohol. I mean, I think right now at the house, I probably have about 30 bottles of different liquor. I have probably 20 bottles of wine and maybe another 15 bottles of really expensive vintage collection of stuff like ports and things like that.
Oh, port.
Yeah. And I'm definitely not going to be pouring that shit out, but I'm also not like desperately wanting to drink it either. So,
Well, if you go to get
it's
rid
just
of
sitting
anything,
there.
just let me know. I'll take it up for you.
Well, next time you're in Austin, we'll see about that.
Oh man, Austin. I try and avoid Austin.
I know you do. You don't like all the liberalism here.
Eh,
It's like leaving Texas.
it is.
Crossing
do
into
that
the
enough.
border of Austin is like crossing the border of California.
Well,
Yes,
it
we have
is
our-
the San Francisco of the South.
It is. We have our fruit inspection stations at the Austin border to make sure that the only pot that comes in is legal Austin pot. You know, it's a whole different world here.
Well, what else we got to talk about, Gene?
I don't know what else is going on. So we talk about balloons, talk about our usual conversation about China, where we always disagree. Trying to think of what else. We talked a little bit about Tim Pool. What have you been listening to No Agenda lately or not? Because I've been too damn busy. I honestly have not been listening for the last 3 weeks or so.
Yeah, I've listened to the
What are they
majority of the,
talking
like
about?
Thursday's
Let's see some of their
episode.
topics.
Well, one of the topics I've got is definitely on German manufacturing and EU manufacturing. I'll be able to talk more eloquently about it in a couple of weeks, but
Yeah, because you're going to visit them.
yeah, but it sure seems like the Germans are going to try and replicate the Japanese model of build where you sell, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and what that is going to indicate is the more economic stuff coming to the U.S., quite frankly.
I mean, even right today, I remember I read that there are more Mercedes cars built in the U.S. than there are in Germany.
Yes. And now a lot of that is because of the current lack of natural gas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lack of energy. So, and one of the things that I really didn't realize was how extensive the German economy is so dependent. They are so, and this is something if you're involved in U.S. manufacturing, you may not really understand. There are parts of the world that are highly specific to inputs. Like, hey, we can only take this one type of crude. Otherwise, we have to retool our entire refining capacity. The U.S., we certainly have to retool our refining capacity quite a bit because we're no longer taking as much Saudi crude. We're getting a lot more light sweet crude from U.S. shale production. But here's the thing. We have refining capacity for pretty much everything because we take pretty much everything as inputs.
Yeah.
Germany is really, really, really dependent on Russian oil and gas. They are very specifically tooled. Cutting that off, it's amazing to me how much of their manufacturing infrastructure was hit by that. And Germany's supposed to be one of the, world's manufacturing bases. Well, it's pretty much gone.
Well, they never. Yeah, they. This is the thing. I don't know what Germany would have done had Germany known that they were going to have to sacrifice the entirety of their manufacturing to support this debacle in Ukraine.
But they are, and they're continuing, and I don't understand it.
But I think there's a loss sunk cost fallacy happening here.
Okay.
I think at this point it's sort of like, well, we just spent a year and lost our manufacturing base to support them. I mean, it's kind of like we're all in. We can't quit now. How would it look if how do you explain to people that you just destroyed the manufacturing base of your country for a year if you want to go back? Now, if we can get some additional support, some more documentation besides one single journalist saying that there's proof that the U.S. Navy destroyed the pipeline, that may be enough of a reason for Germany to say, we're done. We're getting attacked by the U.S. We're not going to support the U.S.
Well, and that's kind of the thing is the attack on Nord Stream which is what you're referencing, that is an attack on Germany, right?
Yeah.
That was the supply line, and it had Nord Stream not been taken out, there's a high likelihood that the Germans may have decided to change their mind. Well,
Mm-hmm.
once Nord Stream was taken out, they don't really have that option anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, yeah, what's your take on that?
As far as what? Oh, do I? I
It
mean,
was
I've been
Matt
saying the U.S.
Taibbi,
did
right?
it from day one. I
Right,
think it's pretty
You and I
obvious
have
the U.S.
been
did it. Yeah.
right, but the details that he was putting out.
I mean, it was different than what I thought. I kind of figured it was done closer to the time of the actual explosion and probably by SEALs. They're saying it was done by the regular Navy underwater teams there, not SEALs, and it was done 3 months prior to the actual detonation, which would also not just mean the U.S. destroyed a German pipeline, but also
A Russian
that
pipeline,
it
but
was Russia German, but it was premeditated. Like they had put in the that capability earlier than the actual destruction happened.
Yeah, Miles is correcting me. It was Seymour Hersh, not
Seymour
Matt
Hersh,
Taibbi.
yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely premeditated, and goes back to what Biden had said, right? That Nord Stream's not going to happen. He publicly announced it, which is why Congress didn't have to be involved. Lots of things are talked about on that, but it comes down to that this administration was going to poke a fight with Russia no matter what.
Yeah. Well, and if you watch the video that's been going around from the press conference prior to the pipeline explosion, where Biden is giving the conference and his press conference, and when pressed with the question is, well, how is the U.S. going to ensure that Germany doesn't buy Russian gas? Oh, yeah, I can't remember his exact answer, but something to the effect of like, oh yeah, we have ways of doing it. And he has this smirk on his face. Like clearly there is something that he's not saying that he knows. It's not just a theoretical, oh, we'll figure out a way. We'll figure out.
We already have
Germany
the plan
something.
in place.
It's clearly like, oh yeah, it's not going to happen. Let's just trust me. Germany will not be getting Russian gas. And I think that video is a confirmation, frankly, of the story. I would like to see some additional proof coming out beyond that, but it was pretty obvious at the time that the U.S. Now, I wasn't sure if it was going to be political or what. I didn't necessarily think they were going to blow it up, but as soon as the pipeline exploded, it was pretty obvious it was the U.S. It may have been carried out by the UK, I thought, because they're closer and they do have pretty good underwater teams. But it was
and they're not dependent upon that pipeline.
And they're not, yeah, exactly. They're not dependent on pipeline. It would be, if we were doing like a Bond movie, then Norway doing it would make total sense as well, because they also have pretty good underwater teams, but they also have the additional benefit of selling natural gas. But
go ahead.
I don't know, man. It's it's obviously not Russia or Germany that did it. I blame Poland just for fun mostly. I remember when it first happened, I right away posted, Poland's in there. But I kind of enjoy
that was just a dig at CSB.
That was a dig at, yeah, exactly.
And
this goes unnamed.
This goes back to actually.
Is he doing better? Hopefully, he's doing better. By the way,
I have not heard, but yes, this location.
I thought you guys talked every night.
Not every night, but we do talk. I did ask him for advice on an e-ink tablet, which I'm looking at e-ink tablets like.
E-ink. Yeah. There's one that advertises nonstop. I looked at them for a while.
Yeah, I love note taking. I like that.
By getting the Amazon one, so that way you're combining your Kindle with the tablet.
Yeah,
and
I don't.
If you don't
carry
like it, there's
Kindle.
a few others out there.
Yeah. So right now, most of my notes for work are typed in OneNote. I'm a huge OneNote user. I like OneNote, but I would love to have something where I can use pen and paper-esque and then migrate that over. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm looking at some options. I have a Surface that I'm kind of using as my travel personal laptop that I may start
Mm-hmm.
taking notes on as well. But I really want something that's thinner, lighter, better battery life, and some of these e-ink tablets have some really cool features. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's, well, we'll see. I guess it'll be interesting to hear your reviews of what you end up with. But I
Uh,
I've thought
Um,
about getting one,
hmm
but then I saw they also have color ones, and that seemed way cooler. And there's 2 or 3 companies making color ones, but they're fairly small companies. Uh, and then you're kind of like, well, do you want to color e-ink or do you want to just get an iPad?
Well, and that's the thing is so like Remarkable too. The
Yeah, that's
Remarkable
the one that
2,
advertises everywhere right now.
yeah, and it I've seen them in person. They look awesome. The
Mm.
problem I have with it is by the time you get what you want, it's a $700 tablet.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
That's not super. It's
Yeah, it's
definitely
$100 pen and the whole
right.
thing.
That is very limited in its utility.
Yes.
So, now the difference in thought there, and I don't really care about color. I want a note-taking device. But what I
Mhm.
really want is something that is made for note-taking, that is very specific for note-taking, that can
Mhm.
interface with OneNote, and that has a couple of weeks worth of battery life.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I have yet to see that feature set there. Everybody's trying to be an e-reader and this, and
Right.
a tablet and this, and yeah. Basically, right now, I'd be better off just getting a Samsung or iPad tablet
Mhm.
and using a pen, for
So
that.
is it writing with a pen that you want instead of typing? Is that the point or what?
Yeah, basically.
No, because my preferred method of notes, which has gotten better and better over the years, is just text to speech.
Right, but you can't do that in a meeting.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I
Well,
turn it
that's
on my
annoying.
phone. No, it isn't. How's that annoying? I push a button on my phone. I don't fuck around with my hand scribbling anything.
Right, but I don't know. My notes and my internal monologue are different than what I say in a meeting.
Well, I'm trying to record what other people are saying. I know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So that one of the things I
Maybe
love
your
about
notes are different than my notes.
my notes are totally different than your notes.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that I've been using in OneNote, even going back to college, I don't know if you know this or not, but you can use OneNote to record audio.
Yeah.
So like recording a meeting, and then as you're taking notes, they sync, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's been a thing on iPad for like multiple apps for a long time.
Yeah, this goes back to well before the iPad. This was a feature in OneNote back in like 2003.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
Like for
but
laptops, you mean?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm a huge OneNote user, man. I mean, my OneNotes are multiple gigabytes in size
Jesus
usually.
Christ. Yeah, I don't know. I think I told you about this before. I kind of got a little talking to when I was in I would be in meetings when I was doing a project for Target. I would be in meetings. This
Mhm.
would be like 2003, 2004 timeframe. With like the CISO and the CIO and stuff. And there's like 20 people in the room. And half the people have their laptops open. Half the people are got notepads, pads of paper. And I never had anything. I'm just like, it's redundant. I don't need to write shit down here because first of all, I have a good memory. I can remember things that are important that I have to deal with. And 2, everybody else is taking notes. So I'm not in charge of notes to be distributed to everybody else, so I don't need to worry about it. Well, I got a talking to is like how people don't like the fact that you're not taking notes. It makes it look like you're not paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, bitch, I'm the only one paying attention. Everybody is too
Everybody
busy
else is
writing
busy
shit.
taking notes.
I'm
Yeah.
actually listening and participating in the conversation. So
Well,
it's
I think there's a balance there.
yeah, it's called have a secretary. That's the balance.
Well, for those of us who are still fairly technical, a lot of what ends up in my OneNote is configurations, different changes, different revisions.
Mm.
When I walk down a facility, I take a lot of pictures, load those in
Yeah, but you
OneNote
don't
and
like
comment
hand
on them.
draw those by hand, or maybe you do. I don't know.
No, but I annotate network diagrams, things
Yeah,
like that. There's
yeah.
lots of things that end up in there. It's not just text notes.
I know. I get it, but I just don't like paper. I don't like pencils. I don't like paper. It's all
I,
old
I
crap. I like new stuff.
Right, but what I'm looking for, and how we got off on this damn tangent,
Mm.
is that I'm looking for a digital input that can mimic paper, but I get
Mm-hmm.
the efficiencies of digital notes. That's what I'm wanting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love about OneNote is the ability to search my notes.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see
I'm
that.
not actually going to go back to carrying a notebook. I don't want that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I can type fairly fast, but I
There
can
was a
write
product.
faster.
I think there was a product even before iPads came out that had like a surface that you could write stuff on with a normal pen, and then it was basically scanning the pressure
Yeah.
of your
Yeah,
writing. What was
the
that thing called?
stuff has been out for a long time.
Yeah.
There's the,
Yeah.
Wacom tablets and stuff like that have been out for a long time. This is just an evolution.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm wanting a little bit more of an evolution before I sink $1,000 into a note taking device.
Here's what I would love to get is I would love to get a 13-inch iPad that folded. Because I like my smaller iPads, but I want more space. And the current generation 12.9-inch iPad, which doesn't fold, is just a little too big for holding with one hand. And so I would love something that folded the way that the Android, the Samsung folding phones do.
Man, I would not want to be folding screens. Just it 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 seems like an expensive engineering proposition that is going to have a high failure rate.
Well, it just has to last a year.
Okay.
It'd be handy. I would love something like that. I don't know. Either that or just if they could make the big iPad lighter, that would solve the problem as well. If I can't fold it, at the very least, I want it lighter. And it's hard to make it lighter because the bigger screen means more power drain, which means more batteries.
Well, I mean, you could always just go with less battery life, but yeah. Anyway, I don't, again, the use case I'm trying to solve for is very different. And anyway, a general purpose tablet,
Yeah.
my
Well, why don't you
Surface
just
is
get an
that.
iPad? I mean, the iPad would do what you're talking about. You could write stuff on there, write notes.
I don't want an iPad.
Why not?
I can't stand Apple.
I know, but aside from that, why not? It would do what you want. Do a pretty good job of it. Plus, you could watch movies on it.
Why
In a
would I
hotel
watch
room.
movies on a tablet?
What do you watch movies on when you're in a hotel?
The TV.
Do you really? It's too
Yeah.
small. I like tablets.
Tablet is a smaller screen than the
It's
TV in your
much
hotel.
bigger screen. A tablet that is an arm length away from your body is a bigger screen than the TV that is 10, 12 feet away from your body.
Okay. Well, no, I've got a little Roku stick that I take with me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I have all my streaming accounts and all that.
So you just watch that on there. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do it. What I used
I mean,
to
I
do when I
have a
traveled a
tablet
lot.
that I can use, but I don't use it.
I don't think many people do this, but what I used to do when I traveled every week is I actually brought a portable projector with me and then projected on the ceiling. So I could lay in bed in a hotel and watch movies up on the ceiling.
Why would you do that?
That is a much bigger screen. And, watching something with your head pointing at the ceiling is easier than tilting your head pointed at the wall. It's not ergonomic. Like TVs should all be on the ceiling for bedrooms. If you're sitting, sure, you can look at the wall, but cranking your head to look at a TV that's on the wall when you're laying in bed is stupid. The TV ought to be above you.
Why are you watching TV in bed? Like,
Most people watch TV in bed.
dude, not me. I
Honestly,
just
it's the
don't do
only
that.
place I do watch TV. I don't watch TV anywhere else.
I just don't watch that much TV. But
I guarantee you, I watch less. I watched one program for about 3 hours in the last month. So I watched about 3 hours of TV in the last month.
well, I will say that I did watch quite a bit of
You
TV
watch
here in the
Disney
last
shit all the
week for
time.
me. And the reason why I did was
Mhm.
because Clarkson's Farm season 2 came out. And
Oh, I need to watch
man,
that.
was that good.
I enjoyed season 1. That was good.
Well, season 2, I'm not going to give away too many
Yeah.
spoilers,
Is it
but it's
good?
all about him versus the UK planning bureaucracy
Oh,
BS.
that should be fun. Yes.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It
And
is
apparently,
fantastic.
we're not going to have a season 3 because Netflix got their butt hurt over his
It's on Amazon.
comments, or Amazon got their butt hurt over his comments. Whatever it is, they canceled the next season because they didn't like his speech.
I thought they backtracked on that.
I don't know. Did they? I read the story where they canceled them, and like it was a story saying that you should never apologize because they canceled him. Then he apologized, and they did not renew him. They still maintained the cancellation, and now he's already apologized twice.
Well, if he can, I'd say he just needs to do the production on his own.
The guy's got the money. I think he's obviously
Yeah, he's like $70 million.
Yeah, I can't imagine that show costs more than a couple of million to make.
Oh no, it's fairly inexpensive. I think the biggest thing is that he's subsidizing his farm with the show.
With the show, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the same thing for that guy, the farmer in Vermont that I watched, that I sent you videos of.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, clearly
boring as hell.
YouTube is paying. Oh, fuck you. It's not boring as hell. It's very fun. You just don't watch every episode the way I do, but it's very interesting because he just got his new bull just came in,
Uh-huh.
and he's got all the cows there that are, most of them are now hand trained. I know you thought it was weird that he named his beef cattle,
Yeah, I mean it's just.
but that's how he sells it. Like when you buy meat from that cow, you're buying meat from the name of the cow.
That's one of the things I thought about doing as a marketing thing if I ever
Mhm.
actually end up selling the beef. Until I can find a tannery for the hides, going in and offering basically at cost, hey, do you want your hide?
Mhm.
Get you a big cow rug. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
How far along are you on that whole thing? Any movement?
I am still working through some of the legal stuff, making sure that I've got everything down. Because the only way this makes sense for me is to not have to pay a penalty on the money I want to use. So I got to validate that first.
Well, when you
By
get
the
your
way,
cows,
season
I'll
3
definitely drive up there because I love cows.
Season 3 has been confirmed and is in production.
Oh, so they did backtrack on it. Okay. Well,
Mhm.
then I am corrected then. Last story I read talked about how they canceled the season.
Yeah, this is according to Grand Tour Nation.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, and I think oh, you know what? Maybe that wasn't the show that was canceled. Maybe it was their Grand Tour that was canceled.
yeah, but I think if they're going to cancel Clarkson, they're going to cancel all of him,
All
right?
of his shows? Yeah, I don't know, man.
But who knows? We'll have to see.
I don't know. All I know is back maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, there was a story that talked about Jeremy Clarkson apologizes for his statements, which resulted in the cancellation of his show. And I thought that it was the farm one, but maybe not. Who knows? What else is going on? What else have we talked about from last week? How do you like doing the show on the YouTubes?
Yeah, so far it's so good. I enjoy some of the interaction. It's nice to see us getting some listeners live. Hopefully, some new people coming in. That'll be a good thing for us. And guys, this is just basically Gene and I started having a lot of these conversations,
On the
and
phone.
we decided to record it as a podcast. Um, both of us have an interesting and different background, and some of what you've heard is us looking at the same data, coming up with different conclusions, and having a discussion around it.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just BSing about guns. Sometimes it's geopolitics. Sometimes it's detailed cybersecurity stuff that I may or may not have inside tracks on.
I still haven't shot that
Things
gun,
like
by
that.
the way.
You haven't?
I need to do
Did
that.
you get it?
Yeah, I got it. I just haven't shot it.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember I bitched
XDS,
about
it's a
having to
great
put
gun.
put it on the site manually because I thought it would come pre-installed,
Yeah.
and it didn't. So
You have a bore sighting kit, right?
no. Yes, I have probably 3 of them. I just have no idea where any of them are. So I'll probably have to buy one.
Yeah, getting a bore, and I would recommend anyone do this. You can get the cheap Chinese bore sighting kits off of Amazon under $20 for pretty much any caliber that you're going to want. And it's just a laser that goes in the barrel. You put different ends on to make sure it fits the caliber, and it'll get you close enough to start.
Yeah, and then you can tweak it from there. And it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
pretty easy and straightforward. But if you just use your eyeball to set it in, you may have a long time to tweak things.
Well, now a rifle is very different, right? So a rifle, especially a bolt gun, where I can take the bolt out of the gun and have the gun sandbagged in or in a lead sled or something where it's not going to move, and look down the bore, look through the scope, and match that up. That you can do, right? Pistols, things where you can't really look through or even an AR. It's a lot harder to bore sight that way.
Yeah.
You're going to shill your product.
Yes, I almost forgot to show the product. So while we've talked about the product, and I have links to the product in the episodes, which is the product being the Emergency Survival Life Poncho, which is the big orange Mylar poncho. Comes in a 3-pack and is currently on sale at Amazon for $11.69, which is a price that I lose money on every single sale. So the price, I'm going to bump it up, I think, in another week or so. But for the introductory period, basically selling these things at cost. And in fact, since I did the math wrong, it's actually under cost. So it's totally on me.
Oops.
But if you want to get this for the cheapest price that you can, then make sure you either click on the link that's in the show notes to the show, or just search for Yukon Supply Co. and then maybe the word emergency after that. So Yukon Supply Co. Emergency should get you this product. We just have the one product, so it's not like there's a whole bunch of Yukon Supply Co. products out there. But yeah, I think it's something that everybody ought to have in their glove box, if nothing else. If you're driving around your car, you need to change a tire, you got something bright you can put on so you don't get hit. You're running out of gas, or your engine dies, or something else happens. You got inclement weather, whether it's cold outside or hot outside or rainy outside. In all those situations, this thing will help you. And while you don't have to have a solar poncho for any of those activities, it definitely makes it better. And the other place I would stick it into is my hunting bag, because it's always good to have something that's bright blaze orange, that if you need to put it on, like in case it's raining or something crazy happens, that you've got it right there with you. So that's the pitch for anybody that's actually on the YouTubes while you're looking at a picture of it on Amazon.
If you're hunting and you're wearing Mylar like this, you're not really hunting because you're making too damn much noise. But yes.
Well, thanks, Ben. But, you may be not hunting. You may be on your way back from hunting and it's raining. And it'd be nice not to get shot by somebody else. So being bright orange would be a plus. Jesus Christ, dude.
I have only ever worn orange hunting when I had to because of
and in some places you don't have to. That's true.
Yeah. But supposedly deer can't see in color, so
yeah, they
the
see
orange shouldn't
shades
matter.
of purple, I believe.
So, Variety has a different take. Variety, Amazon likely to part ways with Clarkson after current contracts, which would take some of his shows through 2025, by the way.
Oh, so interesting. Because the way that in the article I read, I think it was in the Sun is where I read it.
Mm-hmm.
That they were saying that it was already a done deal that he was canceled, but you're saying that there's just speculation about a cancellation.
Well, speculation, and that they're likely to part ways and not likely to renew, but they are basically going to have the contract. So it looks like you're going to have Clarkson on Prime through at least 2025. One of the shows will go off in 2024. The other will go through 2025, it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, Amazon, back when they got the Grand Tour going, when they effectively took over the crew that was doing Top Gear, clearly they didn't care about his speech because, that's what he got fired for. Or I guess he actually assaulted some guy too. But Jeremy's been very well known for telling people to go fuck off to their face.
Well, I mean, he's got that I don't give a attitude, right?
But he's also got the money to back it up.
Yeah, quite a bit, yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm a little amazed at how much all three of those guys just are workaholics.
What's your FU money number?
Well, there's a difference between a comfortable living, not having to work number and FU money number. FU money number, which is you can be an asshole. You can make decisions that cost you money just simply because you want to emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has to be over 100 million. I don't see that being under 100 million.
Why?
Because you may need to lose 20 million at a time.
Okay.
For that fuck you to happen. Fuck you, you know what fuck you means? That somebody pisses you off, you buy their company. Or at least you gain enough of control of their company to fire them. That's fuck you money.
See, for me, it means I am not tied to any individual job because I know I can quit, survive.
Yeah, that's the comfortable not having to work number. That's a much smaller number. That's probably like, I don't know, 10 million-ish.
Well, so for me, it's really having enough money in the bank and savings and fungible assets
so
that I can.
$500,000 a year, 10 million in the last 20 years.
Yeah, no. So for me, it's I can quit my job, and if I have to wait 6 months to go get the next job, I'm okay.
That's not fuck you money, dude. That's called normal savings. You should be able to go a year.
Most people don't have that.
Yeah, but you should be able to have enough savings to go a year without breaking the bank.
Yep, or pulling from retirement funds.
Yeah,
which a lot of people just think of their 401k as their savings.
As their savings.
That's your retirement.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, man. Well, it looks like
fuck you money is different, dude. Fuck you money is like I can afford to spend millions just to get my way. That's fuck you money.
I don't know that that's needed for fuck you money, but okay.
But your fuck you is different than my fuck you, clearly.
Yeah, mine's leave me the fuck alone. Yours is I'm gonna go fuck with someone.
I'm not gonna leave you the fuck alone. I'm gonna turn your life into hell.
So in the chat, SUVs, we've got someone sitting here
just
saying,
"Be there 24/7."
So Kyle Knight saying breaking airspace over parts of Lake Michigan have been closed.
That's been happening quite a bit lately. I've noticed they're closing different parts of airspace on a regular basis in the last week.
Which the question is why?
Yeah, do you have an answer? I don't know.
No,
I don't have an answer. I have no idea.
You know, I do now. I will bring up. You know, we weren't doing the show on YouTube, so different audience. I'll point out that when the FAA stuff happened, I had a little bit of insight into that. And one of the things that I thought was really kind of just staggering is we not only did we shut down our airspace for the only time since 9/11, only second time that we've ever done it nationwide, but the amount of fighters and refueling that was scrambled, right? That was really kind of astonishing to me. we've had some stories saying, oh, it was an inside job. It was, this, that, and the other. It was a cyber event.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of attribution going towards China. And it's interesting that it happened to us. And then the next day happened to Canada. So,
Yeah. So, um,
so I don't know. I'm wondering if there's something related and bigger picture here, plus the balloon things. It all could be tied in.
yeah, I'm gonna ping Adam after the show and see if he knows anything, if he's heard anything about it.
Hmm.
Because he was pretty opinionated about that last one that we had.
The NOTAM system
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I'd given him some information on the back end on what I knew.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting and small world, man.
We do live in the small world. So I don't know. I think a lot of these conversations are all theoretical anyway. The nukes are going to fly in less than a year, so we'll see what happens.
I mean, locking down airspace and those notices going out is not theoretical, but okay.
No. I mean, like conversations about what happens in these different scenarios with China and
Oh
stuff.
yeah. That is theoretical, but knowing what happened with the FAA is factual.
No, that's not theoretical for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're ever going to know though, because I'm probably not going to believe whatever they tell us happened. So there's generally there's no reason for them to actually tell us the actual reasons for any of this stuff. If they close airspace, they're probably keeping the reason for that classified.
Yeah.
Well, until somebody
the U.S.
starts
government
posting
overclassifies everything.
Yeah.
So,
Like the Department of Classification is the biggest department in the entire government. So I don't know, man.
By the way, update from CSB. He pinged me on the Agenda Social. He apparently is listening.
Son of a bitch. He's banned. He's not allowed to listen. He's
anyway,
illegally listening.
He's doing much better. So
Good.
He appreciates us caring about his health. So
well, shoulder is not something you want to screw around with. Well, we both had shoulder injuries, and that's not fun. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's wrap her up then.
Yep. All right, Gene. We'll talk to you next week, man.
All right. Take care.
Right.
All right, guys. And we'll go ahead and shut down the stream on YouTubes and things as well. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Gives me ability to actually pop up windows if we're talking about a topic. Wasn't a whole lot of topics this time around, but it's all good. Now I just got to make sure the audio sounds good for the podcast itself. Bye-bye.
It should. I don't think we had any issues like we had last time.
No, but I want to make sure that the quality is there and everything else. We do it differently last time, so this is a new setup. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, this is the using different software, so yeah, it'll be.
Yeah, exactly. And then, do we need to change the? Yeah, I think I will need to change the time we do the show for next week. I think.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
I shouldn't have any conflicts. I'll be in the U.S. now.
Yeah, because I'll be in Fort Worth.
Yeah. So the 26th, my flight out is in the evening, so we should still be able to do normal morning.
In the morning.
Now, theoretically, coming back the 5th, but that's likely to move. So I'm likely to get that extended because of things that are up in the air.
Yeah.
But if I'm coming back the 5th, that'll be a morning flight. So
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Right now
everybody, all 57 people that are still on know your plans. That's cool.
Whatever. I'm not hiding anything. My flight into Europe right now, all that's booked is my flight
you have a
to the
flight
conference
to Germany.
So.
That's all people need to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let's fix that situation there, and we can talk about it when you get back.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Later, man.
Later. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.